It's your AEW Dynamite post show. It's Wednesday, November 17th. Tonight on the show, Bryan Danielson, Hangman Page. Did Bryan turn heel tonight? CM Punk versus MJF. Looks like next up for both guys, and Sammy Guevara beats Jay Lethal in his AEW debut. Let's talk pro wrestling. I got Johnny North waiting. Let's do this. Hey, Johnny North. How you like that music?
Seemed kind of upbeat.
It was very upbeat. I liked it. I like that Christmas music we had to kind of lead us in. New music. Shout out to the production team for that excellent music selection. Dig in the tunes. I was loving it. You all right, John? You good?
Well, I'm just kind of confused. Like you said, like, oh, did Bryan Danielson, did he turn heel?
Yeah.
I think it was kind of obvious that he did. Like, I don't think there's any question about that.
He's in Hangman's hometown. He's going to get that reaction in Hangman's hometown. I don't know if he's necessarily an all-out heel. I think he was just kind of playing the heel on the night. I think maybe in the Hangman feud he'll be a heel, but it might be 50-50 type of thing. I think there will be some fans cheering for Bryan Danielson and some fans cheering for Hangman. You know where I'm cheering. I'm on Team Bryan all the way, all day, every day, 24/7, 365. I bleed maroon. I love Bryan Danielson. The guy is the man. Number one pro wrestler in the world. Has been for pretty much his entire wrestling career. One of the greatest wrestlers of all time. I want to see him become the AEW World Champion. I'm a big fan of Hangman Page. I think he's terrific. But I think Bryan Danielson is more terrific. I think he's better than Hangman in every single way. And Hangman has more years ahead of him than Bryan Danielson does. And I think that AEW would be lucky to have a man like Bryan Danielson to even consider carrying their world championship. So they should give him their world championship at some point in the very near future, because he is the best wrestler in the world today. And I think that the best wrestler should be given the number one position, should be the world champion. That is my opinion on professional wrestling. I think if you're going to have a wrestling company, the best performer that you have should be your champion. Seems crazy, I know, given today's wrestling climate, but I believe that the best guy should be your top dog, should be your head of the table, like Bryan Danielson should be and should always have been in any company that he's been in. Excellent promo once again by Bryan Danielson tonight. Excellent work from one of the best promo guys, one of the best in-ring wrestlers of all time. It goes, in my mind, Bret Hart, Bryan Danielson. It's 1 and 1A. And then there's everybody else. You got your Shawn Michaels, your Ric Flairs, your Stone Colds, and so on. But in my mind, it's Bryan Danielson, not only the best wrestler today, but the best wrestler we've seen in probably the last 25 years. So I would give him everything. That's always my opinion on the show. Well, you know what I think, John. You know how I feel about Bryan Danielson. He's the man. When you see this guy perform, how could you not love the guy? He's fantastic. In the ring, on the microphone, he could do it all. He's got everything going for him. I've always said I'm a huge fan of Bryan Danielson's. Daniel Bryan, whatever he was, he's the best. I think Hangman is fantastic. I was really happy to see Hangman get the championship. A beautiful run for Hangman, a great story. Tonight felt like a new era in AEW. Hangman Page is the first real AEW star that they've had as a world champion. You look at their other champions, Chris Jericho. I mean, he was a world champion in other promotions. Kenny Omega, a world champion in New Japan. Jon Moxley, a world champion in WWE. All these guys that were the world champion in AEW were made somewhere else. Hangman is a homegrown AEW product. Now, you could say he was a star before AEW, and that's true, but he wasn't the world champion. He wasn't the man. Hangman is a new era in AEW. He is the first guy that they have made. The first guy that is an AEW champion that is a AEW original. Shout out to the members. Doug Hepburn, Angelo Contagonis, Ringside Report Network originals. Shout out Silent by Deadly, Lorne, CSL, Ryan Katz. Shout out to everybody watching us live. But I'm very happy for Hangman Page. I think he's fantastic. But I think, Bryan Danielson, if you have an opportunity to make him, thank you, Franco316, for renewing the membership. Don't forget to become a member. Join.ringsidereport.net. I think Bryan Danielson.
Very much.
Hey, Antoinette, too. I like it. I just think Danielson is the man. If you have the opportunity to give him the belt, give him the belt. Why not? You want to cut Hangman's run short? I think that's fine. As a babyface, the character that he is, always chasing, always having problems, he's the sad cowboy. He's the lonely cowboy. Give him some problems. Have him lose to Bryan Danielson right off the bat in his first defense. It'd be shocking. Every AEW champion in the past has defended the title at least once. I think Bryan is a legit champion. I think Hangman could be the first multiple-time AEW champion. I think Hangman could win the belt back, within 6 months. I'm not saying give Bryan the belt forever, although, not a bad move. But at this point, if Hangman beats Bryan, where does Bryan go from there? It's kind of back to square one. And I think given the run and the push that he's had, no reason to do that. Full steam ahead with Bryan Danielson. Johnny North. You disagree?
Well, it's tough. You're going to have Hangman lose the title right after all that. Like, everything he went through, years of trying to win that championship, and now you're just going to take it away from him. Like, if anything, that kind of helps this whole situation. It looks like Bryan's going to face the rest of the Dark Order before he gets to Hangman, so at least this is going to drag out for a little bit. I could see this go all the way to January at the very least when they had their first big special on TNT. It seems like that's when the title match is probably going to happen because it's probably going to take him like 5 weeks to get through all the Dark Order if he wrestles them just on Dynamite every week or something like that, or Rampage, whatever. Like, if that happens, more likely that's how we're going to end up around there, January-ish, more than likely. Maybe end of the year, whatever big show they decide. Like, the longer they drag this out, the better chance I think Bryan has to win the championship. It just, I feel like you got to let Hangman have the title for a little bit of time, like even if it's a short reign.
So give him 2 months. Give him till January. He won it November 13th. Give him till January whatever. The first TBS Dynamite, January 5th, I think it'll be. Yeah, the 5th of January, 2022.
I'm actually.
Give him 2 months.
Like
1.5 months.
Special on TNT. Isn't there supposed to be like 4 like big specials on TNT every year for AEW? I'd probably have the match then if they could drag it out that long. I mean, they possibly can. But wait and see. I mean, then possibly I think Bryan has a better chance. But I mean, if it's going to be, mid-December, end of December, it doesn't look good. I mean, he's not going to win the first one, more than likely. I mean, if they can drag it up to the pay-per-view, he's got a better shot.
I don't know. I think you're trying to bring out emotion in your audience, and I think that a lot of people would be upset and shocked and sad for Hangman if he just loses in a couple of months. I think a lot of Hangman fans would feel for that. They would be upset. They would turn off AEW, They would be like, oh, Hangman needs to get revenge somehow. They gave it to this guy. I can't believe it. I think a lot of Hangman fans would just be upset. It would give them some real emotion. I didn't see anybody crying when Hangman won the belt on Saturday night. I didn't see anybody in the crowd crying. I saw some people happy and cheering, and they were happy, and it was a nice moment. But to me, if you're a really strong babyface and you win a world championship after a long run, there should be people crying for you. I didn't see any tears. Wrestling is a show. It's supposed to bring out that kind of emotion. And again, I think that if they would have stretched out the Hangman chase, had Kenny drop the belt, because it seems like Kenny's hurt and is going away for a while, have Kenny drop the belt to Bryan or to whoever, have Hangman continue to chase, continue to not be able to beat Kenny. I think when Hangman finally did win the belt in 6 months to a year, people would have been crying in the crowd. It would have been a real emotional night. Remember when Bayley didn't win the NXT Women's Championship, and she never won, and then everybody got called up, and then she finally had that match with Sasha, and it was incredible, and she finally won the belt, and it was like, wow. It's been years, and she finally did it, and it was emotional. With Hangman, it was like, yeah, cool, they're going with Hangman. I like Hangman. I'm happy for Hangman, but I didn't feel that like, oh, yes, finally, Hangman. It was like, it's been like less than 2 years that AEW's existed. The chase hasn't been that long for Hangman. It could have been a little longer. He's a young man. They went with it. I love Hangman, but I think you could take the belt off of him quickly and make his story even richer and better. Because what do you do with Hangman now? He goes on and beats Bryan Danielson. Bryan goes through all the Dark Order while Hangman sits around and has whiskey, and then eventually Bryan wrestles Hangman and Hangman just beats him, and then Hangman goes on to just keep beating guys. What's the story? What's the long-term goal here for Hangman?
Well, I think it's to see if he can draw pretty much. I mean, I think the ratings will tell a lot to see if people like Hangman as champion. So you have to wait and see on that one. This is why it's kind of good for Bryan in a sense where this is not going to happen right away. It's going to take some time. So you're going to be able to decide on the ratings if Hangman's more of a draw as champion. Or if people get turned off kind of quick, then maybe making Bryan the champion is the right move in a sense. I think it's good that Bryan kind of changed things up a little bit to be a heel because there's more intrigue, I think, instead of having a face versus face kind of match. Face versus heel is always more intriguing. So I'm glad Bryan did that, and I thought the promo, like, it suited him. Like, he comes off as annoying, so it works.
I don't know if he came off as annoying. I was enjoying the promo. I'm behind Bryan Danielson 100%. I really liked it. John Silver in the ring with the Dark Order. He introduces the world champion, Hangman Adam Page. Cowboy shit, chants everywhere, crowd going crazy. Hangman comes out, he's wearing the belt. Crowd chanting, you deserve it. Hangman says, oh, I don't deserve it. I earned it. And then the crowd chants, you earned it. Hangman says he knows that the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, is up next for him, and then here comes Bryan Danielson to the ring. Danielson congratulates Hangman, shakes his hand, says he's happy, that Hangman won the title, but he's a little bit surprised and kind of disappointed that it's not Kenny Omega that he gets to face for the AEW World Championship. And then Hangman says, yeah, well, whatever, forget about Kenny because I kicked his ass in under 30 minutes. And, of course, Bryan and Kenny went to that 30-minute draw, so something Bryan wasn't able to do. And then Danielson says he didn't come out here to start any beef between them, and the crowd starts booing Danielson. And Danielson says the Cowboy won't be wrestling someone who dresses like a Ghostbuster on Halloween. He's coming to kick some ass, so kind of making fun of the Kenny Omega Ghostbuster costume, which I thought was a good little bit there from Bryan. Bryan saying Cowboy shit doesn't involve wrestling because, Cowboy shit seems to be just standing around, and Bryan's here to wrestle. He's in his gear, and he wrestles all the time. And Hangman just stands around and talks, and he's in jeans. And Bryan says when he won the WWE title at WrestleMania, he celebrated.
He didn't say WWE title. He said
he
he
didn't
won the title at WrestleMania.
Okay, well, whatever he said.
WrestleMania.
Okay, he said when he won the title at WrestleMania, he didn't come out the next night. I mean, and talk. He came out the next night and wrestled. He wrestled, and the crowd boos him for this. And I say, good God. Yep. I mean, and Bryan, just with a great line, he's like, yeah, of course Virginia is going to boo hard work. And that was just a fantastic line that Bryan threw off the cuff there because he's in Virginia, and it's a Cowboys' hometown, and they're booing him, so he's playing the heel. Great on his feet promo from Bryan Danielson. And I thought that was really great that, he says when I won the title at WrestleMania, I came out the next night and I celebrated by wrestling. Here's your guy, Cowboy. He won the title Saturday night. We're 4 or 5 days later. I can't do the math. I'm not doing the math of how many days. Do you count Saturday as a day? Or do you count today as a day? Let's say it's 4 days later. I'm calling it 4 days. If 4 days later, Hangman's just standing there, he celebrates by doing a promo. He's not wrestling. And then Hangman says, oh, well, why don't we do the title match tonight in Virginia? And Bryan says, normally I'd be up for it, Hangman, but you're not dressed to compete, and you're always making excuses, and I don't want you to make another excuse when I beat you for the AEW World title. And Hangman then gets in Bryan's face, and the Dark Order separates them. The Dark Order, who's Hangman's, they're Hangman's friends, they get between Bryan and Hangman, and Bryan even says, all your little friends are stopping you because you don't really want to fight right now, Hangman. And then Hangman kind of charges at Bryan, and Bryan rolls out of the ring. But that was some really great stuff from Bryan Danielson, just going at the crowd, going at Hangman, and I was behind him. I thought, Cowboy, yeah, you want the match tonight. Sure you do, Cowboy. I was behind Bryan Danielson. I saw it as a heel promo because he's turning on the local crowd, but I'm not from Virginia. What do I care? I'm with Bryan 110%. He is a hard worker. He was there to wrestle. After the promo, he wrestled Evil Uno in an excellent match where he beat Evil Uno with a triangle choke. Uno was already unconscious from the kicks to the face that he took. Bryan just kicked him several times in the face, and then he rolled him into a triangle, but the ref just called for the bell because he was unconscious immediately. Bryan didn't even have to choke him out. He knocked him out with the kicks. I know, Johnny, you were complaining about the finish. I saw you complaining about Bryan Danielson's excellent finish there on Twitter, which you should not ever do, John. Never question a Bryan Danielson finish. That was a great finish because he knocked him out, and the ref was just unaware.
It wasn't the finish.
It was the finish. Yeah, you didn't like the finish because
I didn't like the way the ref reacted to the finish because the ref wasn't even looking at it. The finish I had no problem with. It's okay to end the match like that, but the referee, I think it was Aubrey, like she didn't even look at. She just rang the bell before, not even looking at Uno. That was the problem I had with it, not what Danielson was doing.
Little bit of delayed stoppage. Kind of didn't know when to stop the fight. Kind of like Herb Dean on the weekend in the Ben Rothwell fight. I don't know if you saw that, but that was a weird stoppage.
It happens every week in the UFC, does it not?
It was weird. Like Ben Rothwell was like kind of getting knocked out, and Herb Dean went to stop the fight, and then Rothwell kind of went for a takedown, and then the guy who knocked him out, I forget his name, he looked at Herb Dean like, huh? And Herb Dean's like, yeah, all right, I'm going to stop the fight. It was really weird. It was not good. Anyways, the ref maybe, but I thought the match was solid, and Bryan's promo was great, and his fire in the match with the crowd booing him I thought was great. But I'm not sure that he's fully gone heel. I think that in other towns, like maybe even, well, probably not in Chicago next week when he wrestles Colt Cabana. But I think at some point he might not be a full-on heel. Like if they ever go to Seattle or something, he's going to be a huge babyface there no matter what he says. No matter what.
I think they're going to Raleigh soon, if not mistaken.
Not that I know of. I know that they're going to be in Chicago next week for Dynamite and Rampage. I guess they'll be taping Rampage after Dynamite next week, unless they just stay and do it live. I don't know. And then the following week, they're in Duluth, Georgia for Dynamite and Rampage. So I don't know. Raleigh, you said, North Carolina? WWE is going to be in Greensboro for SmackDown next week. Hartford this Friday. SmackDown in Greensboro next Friday.
I think they mentioned tickets are on sale coming up for Raleigh, I think.
Okay. But I love the Bryan Danielson stuff. I thought it was fantastic. Fantastic stuff. And then he cut a promo saying that until he gets his match with Hangman Page, he's going to take out every single one of the Dark Order guys. And he's going to take on Colt Cabana next week in Chicago. Which is a little weird that he has to go through the Dark Order guys, or that he's deciding to do this, because Hangman did seem willing to give him a match. Why is Bryan going through the Dark Order when Hangman tonight was like, oh, let's do the match right now? But Bryan's like, no, because of the way you're dressed, we're not going to do the match right now. We'll do it another time. So why couldn't they just schedule the match for next week when Bryan knows Hangman will show up dressed to compete, and Bryan can also compete, and they can wrestle, and Bryan can beat him for the belt? Right? That didn't really make sense. Bryan wants this match, and he's like, oh, until I get my match, I'm going to go through all the Dark Order guys. He doesn't have to go through the Dark Order guys. He won a tournament to give him a world title shot. Doesn't have to do shit. He should just get his match next week against Hangman, beat Hangman in Chicago, move on. World champion, easy peasy. Right? There's a hole in the booking. Doesn't really make sense. He's just doing it because he's mean now. He wants to decimate the Dark Order, to make Hangman sad before he decides to schedule a title match with Tony Khan and beats up Hangman then. Is that it? Bryan's just a jerk?
Well, there's that, just written like that. But it's also, I think, in a way to make sure you get that match on a big show, not just a random show pretty much. And I don't think they have a big show for quite a bit of time. So that's it. They wrote that in. But it's fine. It works. It suits his character.
Kind of. But it doesn't really make sense, right? Because he wants this match with Hangman that he's earned from winning a tournament, and Hangman seems willing to give it to him, so why don't they just do it? Right?
Well, I guess that's why you had that whole, the Dark Order was holding them apart, and I guess he was kind of offended by that. It seemed like he was. So I think this is his kind of reasoning where he's like, oh, I'm going to have to take them out because they offended me.
Whatever. We get Colt Cabana versus Bryan Danielson in Chicago next week. That's good for me. I'm happy about that. That'll be good.
Well, it's been years since they've wrestled each other, so that should be interesting.
It's pretty cool. I think that is fantastic. I'm very excited for that next week on Dynamite. Dynamite looks great next week. Dynamite was really good this week, mostly because, Bryan Danielson was so good and the main event was so good. And everything else was pretty good on the show. The show opened with a little backstage promo from Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and Adam Cole. Kenny talks about losing to Hangman and the Elite losing at Full Gear. And Kenny says he's going to have to go away for a bit and fix some things that he can't fix while he's there. And Kenny tells his friends to hold down the fort while he's gone. And Adam Cole says, yeah, I've got it. And Kenny's like, actually, I was talking to the Bucks. So maybe a little friction there being teased between Kenny and Adam Cole for when Kenny comes back. And I'm hearing that Kenny's got all sorts of neck problems and he may have to go away for a while, rest his body. He's been working a very hectic schedule for many years and a very tough style. And you could see maybe it's wearing on Kenny a little bit. And he's got a video game to help make for AEW. He's got a lot of other things that he's doing for the company. So maybe he's best suited right now to kind of take a little break, refresh, recharge his batteries, do some things for AEW where he doesn't have to take bumps, and come back when he's feeling better. It seems like Kenny Omega's taking a little time out right now, and it really changes things in AEW. With Kenny leaving for a bit, Moxley being gone, there's, some openings. Jericho's no longer the big star that he was as far as, a main event world title guy, although with Hangman champion now, it kind of opens up revisiting the first ever AEW world title match where Jericho beat Hangman to become the first champion. Like, Jericho could say, hey, I beat you once, I could beat you again, be the champion again. We could see Jericho back up there, especially with Kenny and Moxley, not in the mix as far as their main event level guys, but it does feel like a new day in AEW. You've got Hangman as the champion. You've got Bryan Danielson as the number one contender here. You've got MJF seemingly starting a feud with CM Punk. I mean, things are happening here in AEW. It's fun. MJF cut a couple of good promos tonight. One was backstage that seemed to be from Full Gear, like after the match. And he talked about how all the guys on the AEW roster keep talking about how good they are in the ring. And he kind of embarrassed them all. And he did, I mean, him and Darby had the match of the night at Full Gear. They killed it. MJF shows a knee that's pretty banged up. I don't know what's going on with his knee. And MJF says, I don't know what's going on in my knee, but it doesn't matter. And the fans can hate my guts, but it doesn't matter because they can't deny how good I am. Better than you, and you know it. Just tremendous promo from MJF. And then he did another promo later in the night in the ring with Shawn Spears and Wardlow. MJF says he's the most complete pro wrestler on the planet and that in 2024 he's going to start a bidding war. So I guess alluding to his contract being up with AEW in 2024 and going for the money, which you could see and would get him heat as well. Imagine him showing up in WWE. He'd be so hated. I think it would be fun, but that's 2024. I think he should stay in AEW, though. I think he's going to be a world champion there. And who knows, WWE. MJF says he's the past, present, and future of pro wrestling, and he could take the hometown horse there in Virginia and send him to the glue factory, and he deserves to be the next AEW champion. And then CM Punk shows up, and the crowd chants, holy shit, and holy shit indeed. MJF goes to shake Punk's hand, but Punk just laughs in his face and walks away. Punk says nothing, just kind of shows up, looks at MJF, laughs at him, and continues laughing as he walks away. And commentary's like, is CM Punk not taking MJF seriously? And it doesn't seem like he is. But when CM Punk finally does open his mouth, and when MJF starts talking about CM Punk, look out. That's going to be fun. MJF versus CM Punk. The match will be great. The promos will be fantastic. That's a feud I'm looking forward to. I think they're going to do really good stuff. And it's something that we've been waiting for. When CM Punk came to AEW, you figured him and MJF. Punk, great microphone guy. MJF, probably the best that AEW has. At some point, they would clash. Makes sense with MJF as a heel, and CM Punk is such a big babyface right now. Although, the Eddie Kingston match, not so much. But overall, I think they're keeping Punk babyface despite the reactions in that match. And Punk and MJF, I think, is going to be a great program. I'm looking forward to it. How could you not?
Well, I felt the booing of Punk. Like, I think that was just mainly people didn't want Kingston to lose, and they could feel that he was going to lose. Like, it felt like he was pretty much done. And I think they were booing that where they knew the finish was coming, in a sense, the fans. And they didn't want that to happen, but they still like Punk, I think. And it showed tonight. I mean, I think pretty much everywhere Punk's going to get an ovation like that. So against MJF, it just solidifies it pretty much. There's just no question about it. He's going to be the face. There's still a lot more for Punk to do as a face, so this just makes a lot of sense. And it's a great roadblock for MJF because this is not the championship, but I mean, if you want to get to the championship, you got to get through CM Punk. That's a good test for him. I mean, it's going to be a while, I think, before this match happens. I could see it at the pay-per-view or, that special in January. But, I mean, that's nice. But just for us to get to that point, like just having promos every week, that'll be more than enough, I think.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fantastic stuff. Thank you to Harold Schneider telling us to keep it up, dropping a $5 super chat. Appreciate you, Harold. Harold is the leader right now. Thank you, Harold. Harold and Angelo were in a bit of a battle on Monday night that Angelo did wind up winning just as the show was over. Angelo wound up being the Super Chat leader, but it was a bit of a battle there between Harold and Angelo, so we'll see what happens tonight. But, yeah, I'm really looking forward to CM Punk and MJF. I'm just so excited with what AEW is doing right now. Everything seems to be going in the right direction. The show tonight really set up a lot of really interesting things. Bryan versus Hangman, MJF versus CM Punk. There were a couple other things that I really like that they're kind of going forward with. The TBS title tournament is really starting to heat up, and I'm interested in what they're doing there. I like what AEW is doing right now. They're doing a lot of great things. I thought the pay-per-view on Saturday was decent. It wasn't their best effort of the year. I think it's going to be maybe impossible for any wrestling company to top All Out, and it may be that may have been the best pay-per-view in several years. You know, it was pretty good. So I like that one, and I think AEW overall is just doing great stuff. Eddie Kingston seems to have stayed babyface, though, after that match. CM Punk, was kind of a heel in that Eddie Kingston match. He was getting a lot of boos. He did wind up winning. Eddie Kingston starts doing a backstage interview, and 2.0 and Daniel Garcia interrupt him. And 2.0 says that Eddie Kingston is always complaining, and he didn't last as long as their son, Daniel Garcia, did with CM Punk, because Garcia lost to him, but it took a little bit longer. So they're bragging about that. And Kingston says that he doesn't respect Garcia because he lets other grown men call him their son, which, yeah, he's not their son. It is kind of weird. And they kind of get into each other's face, and then they walk off. But 2.0 and Daniel Garcia firmly implanted heels in AEW. And last week, Eddie Kingston was a heel, and he's been a heel for, a little bit in AEW, but it seems like he's got a lot of babyface love as of late, and AEW is recognizing this and going forward with Eddie Kingston as a babyface, and I think he can be a strong babyface. I think he's going to do well. I like him in this role, and he'll get started here on a babyface run with 2.0 and Daniel Garcia. I think he'll get through them, and then who knows what's next. I think Eddie Kingston and MJF would be a lot of fun, too. Now that Eddie Kingston's a babyface, I think him and MJF, a little untapped potential, but MJF's busy right now with Punk. Depends how long that lasts, but down the road, Eddie Kingston and MJF would be fun. I like Eddie Kingston as a babyface, though. I think it works.
Well, I think you're about to see that he's going to get a bit of a push now. Like, he's actually going to win a lot of matches, big-time matches. I feel they always build him up to lose the big match. And now I feel like now it's a push to actually give him some wins. So this is just the start of it. I think he's going to face a bigger opponent eventually, probably, again, around the special pay-per-view time. And he'll probably get the win with that one. So I don't think MJF would be his opponent. MJF is, if he's wrestling Punk, that's going to be probably a loss. But still, I don't see Kingston beating MJF, though.
You don't see MJF handing CM Punk his first loss in AEW? He did just get a big win over Darby, so he's riding high. Maybe you kind of, that was his big win, and Punk gets the win over MJF. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility they go with MJF over Punk.
Well, the fact that you could have so much interference, right? MJF's got a bunch of backup, so you could cover up Punk losing with all that. So that's not a problem, really. It's just, is it still going to be that one? Because, as you say, what do you do afterwards kind of thing? I see MJF Punk, this could last for many, many months. Many, big shows, actually. So,
like a Jericho thing with MJF, where it just lasted a while.
I think it should last just as long, if not longer, no? I think there's more potential here than that.
They did a whole lot with MJF and Jericho. MJF in the Inner Circle and all that stuff. They were friends, then they were enemies, then they had several matches and the blood and guts and all that stuff. There was a lot there that they did with MJF and Jericho. To do a longer feud with CM Punk seems kind of crazy because by the end of the MJF Jericho thing, I kind of wanted it to be over. I think certain feuds don't have to last forever. Jericho and MJF lasted like a good several months, John. I don't know if I want it longer, but I get what you're saying. I think there is a lot of potential there. But the MJF Jericho thing, I think, was I think it overstayed its welcome.
Well, that was like a year, though. That was a little bit different, though.
Yeah, it was a lot. You want it to be over a year?
I'm just saying there's more potential here than that. And they gave that a year, so.
Okay. Well, I don't want Punk to be doing that for the next year. I think maybe the next 2-3 months would be fine. A year seems a bit much for MJF and Punk to be wrestling over who's the best at talking. I don't know.
Well, wait until we get their promo where they actually like talk against each other. Like, this is just starting, so.
Microphone on a pole match. Pipe bomb on a pole match. Winner gets to explode the other guy.
Yet.
Yeah, I think because pole matches
AEW.
I think the pole matches are stupid. You know?
They have disappeared from wrestling for the most part.
Rest in peace, Judy Bagwell. Remember the Judy Bagwell on a pole match? That happened. I think that probably ruined the on a pole match concept. And she just died like last week, I think. Rest in peace to Judy Bagwell. She also killed the on a pole match gimmick. It wasn't her fault. It was Vince Russo. People still believe in Vince Russo's ideas about pro wrestling after he booked that. Crazy. He's still out there talking shit about wrestling. People are like, "Yeah, that's the ticket." I'm like, I don't know about that. I think he's a little. Anyways, but I don't care what Matt Riddle says. Vince Russo is the original bro. Tomohiro Ishii and Orange Cassidy beat the Butcher and the Blade. Nothing, John? You give me nothing for that one? That was a great line about Vince Russo. Nothing. Stoneface. Do I have to do the voice again? Did you ever meet Vince Russo and he was nice to you and now you saw him on TV and you like him? Oh, Johnny.
I actually...
Here it comes.
What?
Oh.
No, but just going to say, like, you know, Russo, like, you can say what you want, he did some horrible things in wrestling. He also did some great things in wrestling.
Yeah, kind of.
Like,
but
the Attitude Era, you got to give him credit for that. A lot of that was him.
Some of that was him.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. It's
a lot
Santa.
of weird voices tonight.
Look, don't worry about it. It's new production for Christmas. It's the Christmas season, okay? It's almost Christmas time. Get ready, John. What happened? Oh, there's Smiley John from Saturday night.
What's weird is the cut off head. That's the disturbing part of that one.
It's not disturbing. I love it. Decapitated Smiling John. What did you think of the Stone Pitbull and Orange Cassidy beating Butcher and the Blade? And, of course, Ishii hitting the Brain Buster! Like I said it. I called it. Brain Buster. That's his finish. That's what he did. Hits it on the Blade.
You did, but I thought Ishii was kind of, like, slow throughout the whole match. You didn't find? Like, I thought he just seemed, like, very slow.
No,
like
that's how he works.
Was doing.
He's old. He's, like, pretty old.
He's only 45. It's not that bad.
Is he only 45?
But he seemed like he was, like, older, like, the way he was wrestling. But I guess the thing is, too, he's wrestling in Japan. It's a bit of a harder style, so that ages you more quickly, I guess. I'll give him that. But it really felt like that superplex. I was kind of scared for a little bit there. It seemed like that took forever, and I was worried if he'd be able to hit it, actually.
I wasn't worried. He's super strong. He can do anything. I've seen him wrestle many times before. That's just how he moves. I wasn't confused. I wasn't surprised at all. Shout out to Angelo dropping a super chat, by the way. Appreciate you. Spoiler alert. That's just how Ishii wrestles. I don't know. I guess you haven't seen much of Ishii in the past? You don't know? You haven't seen him really before?
Not so much. I just find him and Orange Cassidy, like, that doesn't really fit. I don't know about you. Like, okay.
No.
At least we agree on that, at least.
Yeah. I don't think that worked so much. I would like to see Ishii wrestle Bryan Danielson. I think that you would get a better idea of what Ishii could do against a guy like Danielson. Ishii even against Darby Allin, I think would be good. Maybe guys that are a little bit smaller where his strikes seem more impactful. I thought Butcher and the Blade were a little too big and jacked for him, and he just didn't seem that intimidating next to them. And he's got to wrestle somebody because he's a little bit smaller, and he's got to face guys that are a little bit more his size, so you get the real feel of what he can do and how scary he can be. You know?
Yeah, that would help. When the guy's like a lot bigger than you, it doesn't really work very well.
Yeah, because he does that
character.
Strong style where he's super tough and he hits you really hard. But when he's hitting the Butcher, who's like goddamn gigantic, it just didn't seem that impactful. So, you know, I didn't love the match. I was a little disappointed. I think that you could have used Ishii a little bit better, but they're trying to do this thing where Orange Cassidy is with Rocky Romero, and they're all in Chaos because Ishii is in Chaos, which is a big wrestling group in New Japan. And, you know, they're a faction in New Japan like the Bullet Club or Los Ingobernables de Japón. So they're trying to build that association, right, with Statlander and Cassidy and what's his name, Chuck Taylor, who's also in Chaos. Like he's an actual Chaos member. He's wrestled in Japan. Ishii's a Chaos member. Rocky Romero, who's now hanging out with them, he's a Chaos member. So they're trying to build that for some reason, hopefully leading to the leader of Chaos coming out to AEW and wrestling. The leader of Chaos being Kazuchika Okada, one of the best wrestlers in the world today. Which, you know, is the dream of many wrestling fans to see Okada in AEW, to see what he could do. So many great matches there for Okada to have. Okada Danielson, Okada Punk, Okada MJF, Okada Jungle Boy. I mean, just give me Okada against everyone. Because he's that good. He's one of the best. One of the best. So, maybe we can dream, right, John? We can dream about Okada showing up. Whew. That I would lose my shit if Okada showed up. And honestly, given what AEW does, like, if you would have told me last year at this time that AEW was going to book Bryan Danielson versus Minoru Suzuki, I would have been like, what? Bryan Danielson and Minoru Suzuki are in AEW? And they're wrestling each other? Are you kidding me? I wouldn't have believed you. So, you know, Okada could easily show up and wrestle Bryan Danielson next year in AEW for the world title. Why not? Crazy things happen in AEW. It's fun. Forbidden Door, man.
Well, if this tag match was a step in the right direction for that, I guess that's a good thing. But not to have this every week, though. I don't think that's a good idea. Like, I don't know why they keep this going on, this whole like Matt Hardy against Orange Cassidy feud. Like, it's not great. Like, it should have been over after that lumberjack match, but they keep it going. It just feels like it's endless.
Yeah, I don't know why it keeps going. I don't know why. I don't really care to see an end with Matt Hardy and his crew against these guys. I guess we're building towards a big match with, I don't know. Haven't we had the big match? We had Matt Hardy and Orange Cassidy on Friday night.
Well, it feels like that's not the big thing. That was the two leaders of the factions, right? So it's going to be like a huge tag match, I guess, in the end or something. Like, it just feels like this isn't over. I want to see the end because I want them to move on, do something else. Because this happens too much.
And Matt Hardy never shows up with the same people. You know, like, what happened to the TH2 guys? What happened to Private Party? Now Matt Hardy's just with Butcher and Blade and the Bunny. Like, I don't know who's on this team anymore. I don't know what's going on. And, you know, I didn't love it. I did like JR saying that Matt Hardy's hair looked like Paulie Walnuts from Sopranos. I thought that was a good line. We love you, JR. And, of course, we also love Paulie Gualtieri. Hey. Paulie. Gotta love Paulie. Angelo wants to know how long Ishii has been wrestling. He's been wrestling since 1996. 1996. Wow. Yeah, long time. And thank you, Bob and Angelo, for the kind words about all the knowledge that I have about professional wrestling that I bring to you here at least 3 nights a week on the Ringside Report Network every Monday night after Raw, every Wednesday night after Dynamite, every Friday night after SmackDown, and of course, a special show this coming Sunday after Survivor Series. Which you can tell I'm super hyped for.
Should be good.
I mean, Charlotte and Becky? Hell yeah.
Yeah, that looks like fun. That match anyways. And, you know, usually the Survivor Series matches are interesting too.
Yeah.
At least the men's side.
We'll do the preview on Friday night, by the way. The men's side.
We get a full card by then.
Yeah. Well, on SmackDown, they'll give us the final members of the SmackDown Survivor Series teams, which they had announced, but then they removed 2 members for no reason in particular. Poor Sami Zayn got just pulled from the Survivor Series match. Poor Sami.
Oh, because he lost the match.
Yeah, I know, but, like, why? It was dumb.
Well, you know, for whatever reason, they're really pushing the whole Adam Pearce is, like, power hungry and just does whatever he wants. So I don't know what that's leading to, but they're really pushing that.
But at least on Raw, when they take a guy off the team, they replace him with somebody. Like, they took Dominic Mysterio off the team, and Bobby
Lashley.
Excuse me. Yeah. Whew. Bobby Lashley. I'm allergic to Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley.
It sounds like it.
Yeah. Bobby beat Dominic, so Bobby's on the Survivor Series team. So they replaced him, you know, and then Adam Pearce is like, Rey Mysterio, you're off the Survivor Series team. And then Austin Theory shows up and like, yeah, Austin Theory, you're replacing him. So we have a resolution. On SmackDown last week, they're just like, Sami Zayn, you lost to Jeff Hardy, now you're off the team. And they didn't replace him. And then Sonya Deville was like, Aaliyah, you suck, even though she just won her match. She just won a 6-woman tag match. And Sonya Deville decided she's off the Survivor Series team, didn't replace her. So hopefully Friday night we'll find out who the final members of the teams are. But it does seem like Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce, who are the general managers of both brands, seem to be favoring Raw because at least they give them complete teams, whereas SmackDown it's like, fuck it. So, there. FTR and Andrade cut a backstage promo. They talk about doing an 8-man tag with Malachi Black against a Pac, Cody, and the Lucha Brothers.
Or possibly a 10-man.
What?
Well, because they might have Tully and Arn. They talked about that in the promo.
Yeah.
Like, Tully talked about wrestling again, but I wasn't sure if that was a singles or added to the tag. But he threw it out there. He could go again, apparently.
Did he mean that? Like, are they going to be in a match? Because they announced the match for Dynamite next week. It's an 8-man. I think Tully and Arn will just be ringside, and Tully's just warning Arn, like, hey, I may fight you ringside.
Yeah, but he said, like, I could still go. Like, the way he said it, it sounded like an actual match, but I don't know if they had the right idea at that time, or it seemed like there was 2 different thoughts, possibly. I don't know.
Well, it will be Malachi Black, Andrade, and the FTR versus Cody Rhodes, Pac, and the Lucha Brothers on Dynamite next week. We will also have Bryan Danielson versus Colt Cabana and Thunder Rosa versus Jamie Hayter in a TBS title tournament match. All set for Dynamite next week in Chicago. As far as Dynamite tonight in Norfolk, Virginia, we had Britt Baker doing a backstage interview talking about Jamie Hayter beating Thunder Rosa next week. And then we had Nyla Rose and Hikaru Shida, which I thought was a pretty decent match. Nyla Rose doing a diving senton off the apron, going through a chair. Vicious bump from Nyla Rose there. Vicky Guerrero getting involved. Even Vicky took a kendo stick. What is that, a metal kendo stick that Shida has? Nailed Vicky in the back with it. That looked kind of rough for Vicky to take. Serena Deeb attacked Shida while the ref was distracted. And, you know, Shida kind of got beat up a little bit. But the match lasted too long afterwards. Like, Nyla Rose didn't just beat Shida after the attack from Deeb. It was like, you know, more wrestling. The attack from Deeb was just like an interlude in the match, which was kind of weird. Nyla Rose beats Shida with a weird like leg stretch submission thing to advance into the semifinals. She'll face the winner of Ruby Soho versus Chris Statlander, which is a big one. I thought the match was good, but the interference with Deeb and then the finish was like not as good.
Well, we talked about this, I think, when Shida won her match against Deeb, right? Where Shida was injured during that match, and we're like, oh, this is probably going to play into her match in the quarterfinals.
Mm-hmm.
Problem was, that match was like a month ago, so it's really hard to say that she was still hurt, but apparently they say she's still hurt from that, so it's just hard to believe in that stuff. But I guess that was supposed to be the reason why she lost that submission.
But she didn't seem to be selling the leg that much in the match.
Well, that's more on her there. I don't know why she wasn't. I think she was supposed to, because you could tell with commentary that was the main factor, was that her leg was injured in the prior match a month ago.
They didn't even show a clip of it to remind us. And she's not selling. She's got to sell the leg. If her leg is hurt, she's got to sell it and let us know. Otherwise, I don't know.
It's also on them. They took a month for this to happen. This was the problem with the tournament. Like, you started a tournament, but you started it too early.
It has been a long run for this tournament. Like, they're not doing 2 matches a show. They're doing 1 match a show, and that's it. They're really stretching it out. I think they're stretching it out until they're actually on TBS in January.
Yeah, it seems like it, but like, I think they're realizing now it's like we don't have enough matches for this, because it seemed like it was going to be a lot of matches, but they kind of went through them really quickly. So then it felt like they stopped the tournament for a little bit, and now we're back on, but there's still not a lot of matches, so it's only going to be like 1 match a show now.
And that's what it seems like. We got Jamie Hayter versus Thunder Rosa next week, and we have Red Velvet versus Jade Cargill coming up on Friday on Rampage. And the winner of Cargill Velvet will take on the winner of Rosa and Hayter. And then the winner of Statlander and Soho will take on the winner of, will take on Nyla Rose, who's the first person who's qualified into the semifinals of this tournament. So we're going to get some semifinalists here coming up. It's getting close. It's getting closer, right? I don't know if they can stretch it out all the way to January, because it seems like we're getting kind of close to the end of this thing. Statlander and Soho, I would assume, would be next week on Rampage, because the Dynamite match is going to be Rosa and Hayter. So I would assume Statlander and Soho goes next week on Rampage, and then the following week on Dynamite, we could start doing some of these semifinal matches. Maybe we do, one of them on Dynamite, and then the other one on the next week's Dynamite, but then you're done. And it's like mid-December. Then you're ready for the finals. Unless they just say, okay, the finals in 2 weeks when we're on TBS. And it's got to be on Dynamite too, right? Because Dynamite's the show that's moving to TBS. Rampage is staying on TNT, right?
That's right.
Right.
Doesn't matter for us.
No. Doesn't matter at all for us in Canada. All right. What else happened on this show? Nyla Rose beats Hikaru Shida to be the first semifinalist here in this tournament. Darby Allin cut a backstage promo, and then Billy Gunn and his sons showed up and kind of got in his face. And that's happening. It'll be Darby Allin versus Billy Gunn on Rampage on Friday, which is kind of fun.
It's fine, like, throwaway match. Like, if it was on Dynamite, I'd be like, oh, it's kind of a waste, but on Rampage, it's fine.
Rampage doesn't look so bad. Billy Gunn versus Darby. It's a weird match I never expected. Why not do it on Rampage? I think it'd be fun. Bobby Fish and Adam Cole, the Undisputed Era, back together taking on the Jurassic Express. That's not over with. Adam Cole still feuding with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. The Bucks not in this match, so maybe they're not anymore, which is good. And Jade Cargill versus Red Velvet in a quarterfinal match in the tournament set for Rampage on Friday. I thought the promo backstage with the Bucks and Adam Cole was not bad. Cole challenging Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus for the match on Rampage. He and Bobby Fish teaming up again. And Bobby Fish was about to do the Undisputed Era catchphrase, and they're like, no, that's not. We don't do that here. It was all right. I like to see Bobby Fish and Adam Cole back together. I think it's fun. I don't know how long they'll team for, how many matches we'll see them as a tag team. I think Cole and Fish are staying singles wrestlers, but why not?
I'd be interested to see them win the tag titles. Then maybe there'll be friction with the Bucks over that. I mean, that could be very interesting. Wait and see what happens.
Could be something. Could be something. But I liked the little promo, and I like to see where Adam Cole's going now. He had a little bit of a deal with Kenny Omega where Kenny's like, yeah, hold down the fort, Bucks, but and Adam Cole's like, yeah, me, and he's like, I wasn't talking to you, so maybe some stuff with Kenny, and now here's the thing with teaming with Bobby Fish. Nice direction here for Adam Cole. Lio Rush and Dante Martin beat the Acclaimed. I thought that match was solid. I like that match. I like Lio Rush. He's a good wrestler. He's fun to watch.
Well, you see they fixed it this week, right? I think the week prior they had them as a heel team, but they were clearly a face team, and now
Yes.
it's now they are a face team, they'll face heel team, and this works fine. I thought the Acclaim striking, they still need some work on a couple of their strikes, but besides that, the match was fine.
I love Max Caster's promos when he comes to the ring. I think that they're fantastic. The little raps that he does on his opponents are always great, and it's one of those things where you have to pay real close attention to every word he says. He's a guy that makes you turn up the volume and pay attention. If you're kind of watching this show and, you're just going along kind of in and out, looking at your phone or whatever, you stop everything you're doing and you pay attention when Max Caster comes out because it's a short promo and it's usually very, very good. I liked it tonight. He's always great. I like that guy a lot. He's really fun to watch.
Well, he's got something that makes him stand out among everyone else, so that's something really important to have in wrestling. And yeah, he's got to go with that as much as he possibly can.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I think he's fantastic. And I liked seeing all this talent, this young talent in AEW, and they're kind of off on their own island right now, doing their own thing. They're relatively new, but you could tell that there's a lot there, and in a year or 2 or 3, they're going to be huge stars for the company. All 4 guys in that match. I think the Acclaimed as a tag team are great. Lio Rush and Dante Martin, I think, are going to do big things in AEW, so I was really happy seeing that match. I think it was a good sign for the future of AEW wrestling here. And then we had Taz, Team Taz, led by Taz and Will Hobbs and Hook and Ricky Starks, and they did a promo saying that, Dante Martin should be on Team Taz and Lio Rush shouldn't take it personally. It's just business. They want Dante Martin on their team. They don't seem that interested in enlisting Lio Rush, but they do want Dante Martin. So it looks like Lio Rush and Dante Martin will be feuding with Team Taz in some way going forward, which the Team Taz thing is they're the least interesting group in AEW. It's not good.
I feel they could be more.
I know, but it doesn't work.
Enough.
Yeah. They don't use them enough, and when they do use them, it's like, huh?
Well, they're just going to feud with them. That's pretty much what's going to happen, right? So, I mean, they're just kind of stretching this out.
We'll see what happens there. I don't love it. But, it's something for Lio Rush and Dante Martin to do. Give them a team of heels that are kind of established to feud with. It's not bad. Sammy Guevara and Jay Lethal is your main event. I thought this was the match of the night. Excellent match. Sammy Guevara beating Jay Lethal via pinfall after his GTH finisher to retain the TNT title. I thought the match was great. Sammy going for that top rope senton to the floor. Misses Jay Lethal, who was on the table. Lethal slides off the table. Sammy puts himself through the table. I mean, goodness. Sammy had an injury going into the match. He had taped ribs that he was selling. He did a dive on Jay Lethal, and he kind of hit him ribs first, and he was selling his ribs after the dive. I thought Sammy did a great job of selling the injury in this match, of hitting some very impressive moves, and Jay Lethal really delivered on his debut performance in AEW. He looked crisp. All his wrestling was on point. Everything looked legitimate. It was really good stuff. It was a very, very good match. Great debut for Jay Lethal. Really showed that he's one of the best out there. Has been for a long time. Jay Lethal is a very talented wrestler, but I haven't seen him in a little bit. I haven't, kept up with him too much in Ring of Honor. See him from time to time, and he's always great, but this match with Sammy Guevara tonight was fantastic. Sammy is really great. Sammy's really coming into his own as TNT champion. And Lethal was a perfect opponent for him tonight. It was perfect. I thought that match was great. It's my match of the night. I don't know about you, John, but I loved it.
Yeah, I thought it was easily the best match I saw tonight. There's no question about it. Jay Lethal for years has been like a high caliber wrestler. He's very versatile, can wrestle pretty much almost any style. So it's just you haven't seen him enough recently, so people kind of forget about it. But he's always been really good. It's just great that he finally gets the chance now to really showcase himself on a bigger stage. So the fact that he can come in there and have a great match like this isn't really too surprising. It's good to see him get this because he hasn't gotten moments like this recently. So that was great. I was just thinking that the finish, it was fine and everything, but I thought there'd actually be a little bit more to the ending of the show. Just them shaking hands at the end. Felt like it was missing something.
I don't know. I didn't hate it. I liked it. I liked the celebration with Sammy Guevara and Jay Lethal. I liked them shaking hands. I liked it. Jericho, Santana, and Ortiz come out to celebrate with Sammy Guevara. And then Jericho goes and Sammy goes to shake Lethal's hand, and then Jericho congratulates Lethal. But there was a moment there where Sammy stuck out his hand, and Lethal kind of looked around like, well, if I don't shake your hand, are your goons just going to attack me, right? Because Jericho and Santana Ortiz are just kind of standing there,
yeah.
and Lethal's kind of forced to shake his hand in that moment. So I kind of wonder, are we going to see something here with Jay Lethal and maybe Chris Jericho, or Jay Lethal maybe continuing the feud with Sammy Guevara in the Inner Circle? I could see more there. Yeah?
Did you notice it panned to Tony Nese, who was sitting in the front row for whatever reason they were doing that?
Yes.
So it felt like something was going to happen.
I feel like maybe Tony Nese is going to feud with Sammy Guevara, or maybe Tony Nese and Jay Lethal are going to go after the Inner Circle now. I don't know. I could see...
But nothing happened, so I don't know.
I could see Tony Nese and Jay Lethal joining up with Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky and giving the Inner Circle some legitimate pro wrestlers to actually have wrestling matches with if they wanted to continue that. But I don't know. I don't know what they're doing there with Jay Lethal. But I didn't hate it because, it was a nice little moment, and I thought the match was really good. It was Lethal's debut. Sammy defended the title. It was something to celebrate, and they celebrated it. It was a celebratory night. It was the Hangman homecoming. It was a night of celebration. They had a kick-ass match, and they celebrated in the ring. I didn't hate that finish, and I also thought, this could lead to more with Jay Lethal and these guys. And, of course, there's Tony Nese, and what's he doing there? What's going to happen with Tony Nese? I didn't hate the finish of the show. I thought it was all right, especially considering we had such a great match. Very often on AEW, especially Dynamite, the opening match is the best match of the night, and we did have a very good opening match. We had Bryan Danielson in the ring against Evil Uno. I thought the match was really good, but, the main event here surpassed it. So I was happy. Given how good the main event was, I don't really have a problem with the post-match whatever. Match was good. I'm good. Good Dynamite. Like, really good Dynamite. There wasn't anything really detestable on this show. A couple things that were kind of but overall the show was pretty damn solid. Pretty solid wrestling card.
I felt it was all right. Like, the thing is, like, when I came to, like, match of the night, like, really, it felt like it was only the last match. I felt that all the other matches were just okay at best.
Yeah, I don't think that the in-ring product necessarily was what drove the show. I think it was the promos and the stories that they began.
Well, they're coming off pay-per-view, so, it makes sense.
Yeah, but I think they did well with the, coming off a pay-per-view, let's start fresh, let's see where we're going. I liked where they're going. And let's see Jay Lethal have a big career here in AEW. This is the action figure I was telling you about the other day when we were talking about Jay Lethal. I don't know if you could see there, but it's signed by Jay Lethal. Can you see that? I don't think that's showing up.
I can't see the autograph, but it's cool that it says, it's TNA Impact. That's cool.
Yeah, TNA Impact. Look at the back.
Nice.
The back of the box is cool, too. Look at those. There's a Stinger, a Matt Morgan, Shark Boy action figure. I don't have the Shark Boy. I want that Shark Boy. Kevin Nash is nice. Velvet Sky. I really want that Shark Boy. If anybody has that TNA Shark Boy, send that to me. I'll trade you for an autograph.
Well, I
Jay
think
Lethal.
you're the best one.
You think I have the best one? The Jay Lethal?
Well, you
you
have
think
a
is
Jay
the best?
Lethal, and it's autographed. Like, yeah, I don't think it's any better than that.
What about Shark Boy? Shell yeah! Remember when he did the Stone Cold Shark Boy gimmick? So good.
Yeah, remember, not the best thing in the world, but I think Jay Lethal, much bigger name, much better wrestler. Like, you got the better one. Plus, it's autographed, so it's worth more.
Whatever. I'll sell it to you for $50. You want it? $50, John.
Well, that's something you don't sell, man. You keep that because he gave that to you. Oh, actually, you bought it off him, did you not?
I think so. $50, John, is yours right now. You want it?
I don't collect toys.
I know you want it. You don't collect toys. What's the matter with you? We all collect toys.
No, I don't collect toys so much.
Look what I got. I just got this. It's a Genius of the Sky, Io Shirai.
That's not a new set, is it?
Yeah, this is actually pretty new. This is 124 Basics. Just showing up in stores near me. It's an Io Shirai. It's pretty nice, little basic Io Shirai. What else I did?
See, you're full in on the whole collecting. Like, that is something that you are really good at.
MVP. Yeah, I got a lot of these things.
Yeah, and it just keeps going.
Yeah, it never ends.
That's good, though.
Shout out to Doug Hepburn dropping a super chat saying, great show tonight, guys. Thanks again. Well, thank you, Doug. Thank you for the super chat. Harold Schneider dropping a super chat. $10 super chat says, #1 fan. Well, you are the super chat leader tonight, Harold. Good God almighty. Thank you, Harold. Thank you to Angelo, of course. Thank you to Doug Hepburn. Appreciate you guys. Angelo asked a question before, as I'll give him a couple of moments. I'll give everybody a couple of moments to see who the final Super Chat leader of the night will be before we wrap up this sucker. Give Doug a couple minutes.
It's good.
Field some questions. I saw Angelo with a good question. He asked us, who do you guys have as your 4 semifinalists in the TBS title tournament? Well, we already have Nyla Rose. She's already there. Did we pick Nyla Rose to beat Sheeta, or did we think Sheeta would win? I do not remember.
Well, we did the whole injury thing, but we thought this, back then, but it still was the same thing anyways.
So we were right.
Right.
Thank you.
Are we going to be right the rest of the way is a good question, though, because one of the toughest ones to predict, that Statlander Ruby Soho one, that one's tough.
Yeah. I'm going to go with, who did I go with last time I made this prediction? Statlander or Ruby Soho? I don't remember. I know I've talked about this before. I just don't remember who I chose because it is really tight. I think Ruby Soho because she's new and they're pushing her.
Wow, okay. Yeah, I'm going with Statlander. But, I mean, it really could go either way. It's really a 50-50 on this one. It's tough. Because you also have to take into consideration who's going to win on the other side as well. So that could also play a factor.
What do you mean you have to take that into consideration? I've already taken it into consideration, and I know who's going to win on the other side. Very easy. This Friday night, Jade Cargill is going to walk right through Red Velvet. Get the fuck out of here. That bitch,
Okay,
Jade Cargill,
right.
in your face.
Semifinals.
Yeah, well, she's going to be in the semifinals, and then she's going to take on the winner of Thunder Rosa versus Jamie Hayter, and I think it'll be Thunder Rosa, and then Jade Cargill will walk right through Thunder Rosa on her way to beating Ruby Soho in the finals of the TBS title tournament to become the first ever TBS world champion, Jade that bitch Cargill. That's my prediction. I think Jade Cargill and Ruby Soho are your finalists. I think we have Soho beat Nyla Rose to get to the finals. And then we have Jade Cargill beat Thunder Rosa to get to the finals. And then we have Cargill versus Soho in the finals. And Jade Cargill wins. And Jade Cargill's a champion because she's Jade Cargill because she's the goddamn best thing going.
It's tough because, Thunder would be a good champion as well. I could see that happen. But the thing is, I think the history with her and Britt, like, that seems to make more sense. So, yeah, I go with Jade.
Yeah.
But I got Jade and Statlander instead of Ruby that you have. So that's the only really difference. But, I mean, again, that's that match that can go 50-50. So it's tough on that one. Whenever that one happens, they haven't announced that one yet.
Which? Statlander and Ruby? Yeah, I don't know. I assumed it would be on Rampage next week was my guess because they announced the TBS tournament match for Rampage this week. It'll be Cargill and Velvet. And then they announced a Dynamite match, too. It's going to be Thunder versus Hayter on Dynamite. So Statlander, Soho, we don't know when that final quarterfinal will be. But I'm assuming it'll be on Rampage next week from Chicago. Makes sense. Big match.
It's nice that I'm getting credit for the Hose Championship, but I didn't come up with that. I saw that and just I noticed it because someone else pointed that out. But if people want to give me credit for it, sure, go nuts. But it's not really me who came up with it.
Yeah, that TBS logo on the belt definitely looks like it says Hose. It really looks like, for those that have not seen the logo. And now I can't unsee Hose on that belt. I cannot unsee it. Because it really looks like it says Hose. See? Looks like an H.
When you first look at it.
Yeah, when you first look at it, it looks like TBS. But then when somebody tells you it says Hose, all you can see is Hose. And it's bad for a women's championship to look like it just says Hose Champion on the front. It's just not a good look. I don't think it'd be good for a man to have that belt either. I'm the Hose Champion. Unless it's the Godfather. The Godfather is the only man who should hold the Hose Championship belt.
They'll fix it, though. They'll change it up a little bit or something.
I'm not thrilled about the idea of continuing to name championships after the TV channel you happen to be on. Because, what happens if you want to renegotiate at some point and another channel gives you a better offer and then you leave TBS and TNT and you go somewhere else? You got to change all your belts. It's, WWE never did a USA Network championship.
Well, they have a U.S. champion, but you're not wrong about that. But it's them showing a strong commitment to their station.
Yeah, but, like I said, at some point they might not be on TBS TNT anymore. They might be somewhere else. I'm not saying that they will be. I'm just saying it's a possibility. Wrestling shows sometimes change what channels they happen to be on. They renegotiate deals, and they get a better deal from another channel, and then they move. So if they did that at some point, which is possible, it's like if the WWE had a USA Network champion, and then they moved to Spike TV, and then they had to change it to the Spike TV Championship. And then they go back to the USA Network, and it's like, we're bringing back the USA Network Championship. Like, it's weird. It's weird.
Well, here's another thing that's going to be kind of weird. So now we're going to have a TBS champion, so more than likely we get more of those matches on Dynamite. And the TNT champion, you'll probably see that more on Rampage. More than likely you'll see the world champion more for the women's side on Rampage as well, right?
Right, because the women's champion on Dynamite will be the TBS champion, you're saying?
Well, I'm not saying that you can't see the world's
Right.
women's champion on Dynamite, but more than likely, if push comes to shove, you see the TBS champion, no?
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. We'll see what they do when they make that move. But I like that we are unanimous that Jade Cargill is going to be the first ever TBS champion. And I have been the world's #1 Jade Cargill fan pretty much since she debuted in AEW. I love Jade Cargill. She is the best.
Well, also saying, though, it wouldn't be bad if her first loss was in the finals of this tournament. It's probably not going to happen, but
it would be.
It's
bad.
not a bad first loss.
Yeah, it is. To who? To Ruby Soho or Chris Statlander? Fuck out of here. She's gonna lose to one of them.
Chris Statlander, I wouldn't be surprised. I think Chris Statlander is just as big as her, no?
No. What? Nobody's as big as her. What are you talking about?
Statlander's she's pretty strong.
She is, but she's no Jade Cargill. If anybody's gonna beat Jade Cargill, it should be Thunder Rosa, but I don't think she's gonna. I think Thunder Rosa may even get screwed out of that match with Jamie Hayter. I think Hayter may wind up beating her because of some Britt Baker interference. It could happen.
I think she's going to get screwed over in the Jade match, but because of what happens in the Hayter match, they're going to screw over in the Jade match. But whatever. Thunder's going to get screwed somehow, sadly.
You might be right. All right, John. I think we're done here. Shout out to Harold Schneider, Super Chat Leader of the Night. Appreciate you, Harold. Shout out to Doug Hepburn, dropping Super Chats tonight. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Angelo Contagonis, as well. Harold taking it from Angelo tonight. A rare victory. Angelo stole it from Harold on Monday, so I think Angelo's letting him take it tonight. And Angelo says, don't forget Roman on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon tonight. That's right. Roman Reigns, the head of the table, will be on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, and that show starts real soon. I'm actually, I set it to record because I do want to see what Roman Reigns does on the Tonight Show. Will he be the head of the table, Roman Reigns, total dick? Will Paul Heyman come out with him and do the interview for him as really that's what they should do? Or will Roman Reigns be the nice, smiling, nice guy and, promoting Survivor Series and, hey, come out and watch me do this fake wrestling thing. Ha, ha, ha. Don't you remember me? I was in a movie with Dwayne. Hey, you know Dwayne, my cousin Dwayne, The Rock Johnson, I'm Roman Reigns. Love me, Hollywood. Is he going to do that? Or is he going to do the, the good pro wrestler thing where he's a dick and he, he's got Paul Heyman.
Pretty funny.
You think he's going to be nice and funny?
So.
Ugh.
Yeah.
But he should be a dick. He shouldn't be nice on the Tonight Show to Jimmy Fallon. He's a dick to everybody. He should just come out and be like, acknowledge me. I did see a video, though, with Roman and Paul Heyman. Heyman seems to be at the Tonight Show with Roman, so I think they're going to do some sort of angle. Not a big angle thing where Jimmy Fallon's going to wrestle Paul Heyman, but I think Heyman will appear on the show, too. My hopes are high for it. I'm hoping.
They could do a skit. It's not impossible. It happens a lot with wrestlers in the Tonight Show.
Like I said,
that's just Hogan.
Like I said Monday night, the appearances on these late night talk shows that actually do well and are talked about for years are the ones that, stay in character and the ones that get real. The Jerry Lawler, Andy Kaufman stuff, legendary appearance on the David Letterman show that's still talked about to this day. No one talks about, that John Cena appearance from, a few years ago on Conan. No one gives a shit. It doesn't matter. You got to leave an imprint. You got to make a statement, especially when you're on one of these mainstream TV shows that has a big audience. You got to create a viral moment. And if Roman Reigns can go out there with Paul Heyman and do something, tell Jimmy to acknowledge him, do something out of the ordinary and doesn't go out and, do the basic thing, which is going out and smiling and being nice and doing a regular interview, I think Roman could do a little bit more than that. I think when wrestlers appear on talk shows and things and the wrestlers go into business for themselves and they don't really necessarily let the talk show host in on what's going on, it's better TV. Ask, what's that guy's name that Hulk Hogan choked out on his show? You remember that? What's his name? Richard Belzer? That was a late night talk show. You ever see that where Hogan puts Belzer in a front face lock like a guillotine and he chokes him unconscious and the guy falls down on the floor and he cracks his head and he's all fucked up? He's like out and then he wakes up and he's like, oh, we're going to go to commercial break. And then they come back from commercial and he's not there and it's some other guy like interviewing Hogan and Mr. T because they're promoting WrestleMania at the time. And Hogan's like, well, brother, these wrestling moves are dangerous and sometimes things happen. Belzer was getting kind of mouthy with Hogan, like, why don't you try one of these moves on me, pal? And Hogan's like, all right, brother. Pull a little squeeze on him. Have Roman Reigns choke out Jimmy Fallon legit on the Tonight Show tonight. See if that doesn't pop a rating for Roman Reigns on Friday Night SmackDown. I bet you it will. But the deal with the Peacock Network won't be so fucking good after that if you choke out Jimmy Fallon for a shoot. But hey, the ratings on Fox would be great. So, just saying.
Well, tune in because we're tuning out.
That's it. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you. Harold Schneider, you are the Super Chat leader of the night. Thank you, Harold, #1 fan. Appreciate you. Johnny, I will see you again on Friday night after SmackDown. We will preview WWE Survivor Series, Friday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, as we are every Friday night here for Wrestling Uncensored. And we'll do the Survivor Series preview thing. And then Sunday night after Survivor Series, we'll be back on to review Survivor Series. And whatever happens there. Oh, Santa Claus showed up. What was that? Angelo dropping a super chat. Did he do that right at the end to take the lead? Very sneaky, once again. Have a great night, guys. Catch you tomorrow night with Freddie and AJ. Oh, yeah, I didn't promote that. Thank you, Angelo. I'll be back here tomorrow night with Freddie and AJ. I'm promoting all the different wrestling shows that we're doing, but don't forget we have a UFC show tomorrow night. We're going to talk about MMA and such. What is happening this weekend? Tate versus Vieira. Oh, yeah. Misha Tate's fighting this weekend. So that's something. We'll talk about that and everything going on in the UFC tomorrow night. 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Ringside Report MMA with Freddie and AJ. Johnny and I will be back Friday night at 10 p.m. and then again Sunday night after Survivor Series. Angelo, you are the Super Chat leader. Steals it from Harold again, just as he did Monday night. So thank you, Angelo. Appreciate you. And Johnny and I will be back here Friday night after SmackDown. Like the video. Leave a comment.